What is up, everybody? This is, of course, Sugi Shogun here, and today I'm gonna be reviewing JoJo's Bizzare Adventure Stone Ocean Part 2, which we literally had to wait for 9 months, which I thought like at 6 months at tops or something, because the anime community literally has the attention span of a goldfish, which is like 6 seconds or something. And when Netflix releases all the episodes all together, it will not have the same type of a hype build-up as the weekly format does for a manga and anime in Japan, because people can do reactions, predictions, theories, and they can just digest new content on a weekly basis. But obviously Netflix's goal is to kind of like just drop out a trailer or two there, get people subbed, and then take their money, and then just, dish out the content and then get the fuck out and dish out the next content, which is obviously not connected to JoJo. So they don't really care about, building up the IPs and, the hype around them and merchandise and all of that type of stuff. They just want to dish out new content after new content, which is not really great for the hype of the show. But enough about that fundamental rant there. Let's talk about part 2. I will not do any type of a recap here, but I'm gonna link my part 1 review on the corner in case you want to check it out. And part 2 basically starts out in a very weird way. I was like retracing my steps and I watched out the ending of the 12th episode, which is in part 1. And when we transition into the 13th episode, there's like a weird like time jumps there, like Jolyne gets suddenly teleported into the isolation cell, then out of the sudden she's no longer there, and the weird timeline, break is here happening on the 13th episode, which was kind of messy. I felt like, did I skip an episode here, or did I miss something? Like, that's how I felt watching the first episode of part 2. So, I mean, that was something that they kind of messed up, I guess, because maybe perhaps, there was a long gap here before they started working out on part 2. Because even with like the core 1 and core 2, with the previous JoJo animes, there wasn't as much of a gap between the things, but maybe David Productions is, swamped in other anime that they are working on. I mean, the whole industry is like crunch as fuck, and I mean, they just need to like basically generate more talent in studios at this point, because there's too much work for people. But enough about that. So that's something that they kind of messed up. That's a negative for the part. So make sure you're going to be like watching at least the last episode of part 1 to know where it basically left off, and don't be weirded out too much of this weird thing in the beginning. And these first 2 episodes of part 2 basically focus on the Hermes backstory, which is good because you want to have obviously build up for all types of main characters in the show. You want to know their backstory, like where are they from, what motivates them, etc., etc. I don't remember if they hinted or touched upon on any of that Hermes backstory in the part 1, because once again, it's been 9 months and I just don't remember. And when you binge shows, it's always harder to remember stuff. When there's a weekly format, you kind of remember everything and you're like repeating the opening song and yada yada, and it brings out memories. Like, so it's kind of hazy on the details with these binge shows. But I remember, like, she would not like, if the Jolyne had asked something about her backstory or why is she in the prison, she would have like refused to answer. But basically, here on the first 2 episodes, we have the necessary build up here for her character, and we kind of understand why exactly she is in the prison. But obviously, Hermes is not my favorite character here. I mean, female characters fundamentally, in my point of view, are kind of harder to write, especially in anime, obviously. And I think Jolyne is still like the best female character here. Everybody else are kind of like, I don't know how I feel about them. But FF is cool, I guess. I mean, her character is at least a lot better than she was in part 1. And also, we got new characters coming in, obviously, in part 2. Anasu is being introduced. But she is like set, Anasu is her name, but in the subtitles, it says Anastasia. And that's something I did point out in my previous review, that the subtitles were totally different for certain names than they were. And I think that might be copyright reasons for certain band names. But Anastasia versus Anasu, I don't know why exactly they did that. They just, never translate names. I think it's just a fucked up practice, almost like low-key racist even, in my opinion. Like, I don't like that idea. Like, in my country, we have like, translations for like the kings of England or something. Like, I don't know why the fuck we would have done that. Like, why can't you call people what their real fucking names are? But whatever, side rant over. Now, and also we get a bit of a touch upon obviously the existing characters. Emporio and Weather Report will be making a bit of a cameo as well, but also very oddly kind of like sideline, especially on the ending episode. Like, where is this guy right now? Like, where is he? Like, that's kind of weirded out. And also, I felt like this whole story could have wrapped up in 26 episodes, fundamentally. Like, they could have, like, have all of the necessary story elements here and just do a wrap-up, like, add a couple of extra episodes, 3 extra episodes for, like, the proper ending and the proper ending fight, and voila, we have, like, completed the whole story here. So, that's something that they could have. But I always felt like a lot of these JoJo shows kind of, like, end up being longer than they should have been, but I don't know how I felt about that. I think after Stone Ocean, which is part 6 being part in the JoJo series, not in the Netflix sense of parts, they transitioned Araki transitioned into monthly manga. So the Steelborn Run and JoJo Leon, which ended actually last year, both were done in a monthly format, and JoJo Leon is actually the most longest of all of these, and I think Steelborn Run is longer than Stone Ocean, but probably is going to be roughly the same amount of episodes still. But it will be interesting to see Steel Ball Run, because some people have been like really citing it as their favorite one. And well, there's also the different timeline shit and everything that they're kind of going through there, but it's going to be interesting. Now, not to sound like a broken record though, from my previous reviews though, of JoJo, is that ever since Phantom Blood, and actually, well, Battle Tendencies didn't really follow that format either. Battle Tendencies and Phantom Blood had a different type of story format that they followed, and which were not exactly this monster of the week format, which is basically that, oh, there's going to be a new week episode, and there's a new enemy to battle, and then that battle is going to be lasting 1 to 2 episodes, then the enemy is over or dead, and then there's going to be a new enemy. The problem with that format always is, it always defies the fundamental logics. Like in the fucking Power Rangers, why exactly they always put the clay miniature in the machine and then the monster comes out of there? They could have like put out like fucking 10 monsters there and flushed them out all together, like, better at the fight in numbers. And there's exactly some type of a situation here in this part 2, where they are going into that, the deep security cell or whatever it's called, and they release all of these like enemies at once, and they don't end up like actually all going against Jolyne, even though that's where their mission, to kill fucking Jolyne. So the fundamental problem here is that, okay, like why exactly they all didn't gang up together and attack all at once? And the same format and logic could be applied in all the previous titles as well. Why are the enemies showing up one by one? It's just like, I understand it will make more time to flush out the enemy and his or her abilities, but fundamentally it just defies logic. And that's been the format that has been the Stardust Crusaders, Diamond is Unbreakable, and Golden Wind. All of them are like fundamentally using this very flawed way of storytelling. And I don't like that Monster of the Week thing. That's the main reason why I really consider Phantom Blood like my favorite JoJo. Not in the way of the adaptation. It was way too fast, but like I kind of liked the way the story was structured. It had training arcs and things like that, or tournament arcs. Those are two things which you never see in JoJo, by the way. At least not on the ones we have so far. But yeah, it's like the Monster of the Week format kind of gets old. In Stone Ocean, I think there are aspects about it which make more sense because people are kind of like isolated in prison, so they're not able to like move out like as freely as they are in the other things. So maybe there's some arguments here, but I always like this kind of the setting of the Stone Ocean, which kind of made me had enjoyed it much better than a lot of the earlier arcs that we have on the JoJo. But I'm not gonna be blabbing any longer. I think part 2 was okay, but I felt like, why exactly is the story going on still to have like a very long part 3? Maybe it's another 12 episodes, maybe it's 6 episodes, I don't know. I mean, there's like fundamentally like 158 chapters on Stone Ocean. So I don't know how many we have gone so far. Maybe I have to check up after this review comes out. But hey, I mean, it's still, same quality as JoJo 1, except you have a worse opening song. The ending song is the same, but who knows? But tell me what you thought about this series in the comments, and let's hope we don't have to wait for another 9 months for the part 3, because I don't really want to. But I think in the meanwhile, I'm gonna be finishing up Goldwind, which I never was too interested in finishing up, but I guess here, and since I'm waiting, might as well do that as well. Thanks for watching. See you soon on the next video. Cheers.